Hi guys, welcome back. So in my last video, we basically went over the correct way of prepping the skin for a makeup application. With that said, and with that done, we're going to go into a perfect complexion, incorporating foundation, color correctors, concealers, setting your makeup as well, and going into a slight contour and highlight. All right. So what I'm going to use today is more of a stick foundation for myself. This is my preferred formulation of foundation, and I really do like this particular brand. This is the Bobbi Brown foundation stick. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply that. With that done, I'm going to go ahead and grab my buffing brush. Now you can certainly use your fingers to blend this out if you'd like a little bit more of a natural feel, so you can definitely go in and just really work that foundation, working your way up to really get it blended into the hairline, because you don't want any kind of line of demarcation or anything like that. Or if you like more of a fuller coverage, I find that using something that's going to give you a little bit more, allowing to buffing that foundation into the skin, or stippling, will give you a little bit more coverage. And with that, I would go in and just pounce all over the skin to blend that out. And again, as you get towards the outside of your face, you want to make sure that you're moving that towards the hairline. So again, there's no line of demarcation. You might want to start at the middle of your face or at the center of your face and work your way out, just to make sure that that area is a little bit more perfected. But again, just working that product out into the hairline and back and down the neck. All right. So now that you have your foundation on, actually let me just run a little bit through my eyelids here. And if you feel like you need a little bit more, don't hesitate to go in and just add a little bit more where you feel like you might need just a little bit more. So that now that that's really nice and blended through, we're going to go ahead and do our step 3. And that would be color correcting. So for me, I like a little bit more of a natural concealer. So I don't necessarily go lighter in my concealer shade. I like to match it pretty close to my skin coloring. So for my corrector, I'm actually going to blend 2 different colors. I'm going to blend something that's a little bit lighter in a yellow undertone, and another one that's a little bit more on the peachy. And that's just so that it matches my coloring a little bit more. It deepens up that yellow just a little bit more. So I just add a little bit more of the yellow, and then I go in and just touch a little bit of this guy just to deepen it and darken it just a tiny little bit. And then I'll use that as my color corrector or my brightener underneath that eye. Just again, so that it doesn't look too yellow or too bright or too light. Don't necessarily want all that. Personal preference myself. Definitely if that client of yours likes a pretty heavy under eye or pretty brightened under eye, you can definitely go in and add a little bit more of that yellow instead of the peachiness, or vice versa. If you have somebody who has a little bit more of a lighter complexion, you may not add any of that peachiness. So you really go in and just customize, and you color correct as you see fit. Definitely going into that inside corner of the eye, because we all have that little vein that kind of just rides and sits right in that inside corner. So you want to make sure that you're getting all that, guys, so that gives you the maximum brightness there. So again, doing the same on the other, mixing my colors here. While you're on set, or if you're, working as a freelancer out there, you might want to mix bigger batches of this, just so that you have everything on hand. And just add a tiny little bit right where you might feel you have a little bit more perfecting to do. I do have darker spots on my face, so I do have an actual active breakout right in this area. I don't know if y'all see that there, but I'm going to go ahead and just take that yellowy corrector and just tap and pounce right on top of that guy. Just a tiny little bit. And I'll go in and just mix a little bit, again, of that peachier color. Mix that with that yellow. And going in to my darker spots, just to get those to really cover up quite well. And I just added a little too much yellow there, as you can see, so I'm just going to go in and add a little bit more peachiness. Notice how I'm not wiping, I'm just stippling this on just to really get that product where I need it and not overly blend it, because you want to make sure that you're not overly blending, because then you're going to go and find yourself putting on more product and then more product on top of that, and then that's just wasting product at that point. Don't need all that nonsense. Alright, so now that you've color corrected, I'm going to go in and just use a little bit of my concealer. My concealer is a little bit more on a medium skin tone. It basically matches my coloring a little bit more. The one I prefer myself, again, because I'm a little bit drier, it's the Fake Up from Benefit. It has a little bit more of the vitamin E enriched outer ring there. And then it has that concealer right in the middle. So I go in and just sweep this right on top of my color corrector. And making sure that I'm not overly blending so that it's not making my corrector move. And then down the center of my face. And any area where you feel like you might need a little bit more. Bam. So now that we have that, I'm going to go ahead and just set everything so that it doesn't move. It makes everything really nice and smooth. And then anything that you apply after this in terms of powder, it's just going to glide on and blend a little bit nicer to your skin. So just make sure that you're really setting your makeup quite well, especially if you're using like powder blush and, you know, powder bronzers and such like that, because you don't want them to grab on the skin and create basically like clumps of makeup on the skin. So I'm going in and using my Mercier powder in number 4. This powder has been discontinued, the foundation powder, but they do have a really great compact powder that they just came out with, or in place of this guy. They didn't just come out with it, it's been a while. So then just buffing that all over it, and I'm actually using the wrong brush, my bad. I'm going to go ahead and switch that over to the powder brush. And just buffing that all over, making sure that this is nicely setting your makeup and blended through. You can certainly go in and use a translucent powder if you want to go that direction. You can use something that's slightly bronzy if you feel like you want to have a little bit more of that bronze look all over the skin, but nothing too dark. You don't want to go anywhere in a darker tone, because then that might make you look just way too orange. I'm going to go in and use this brush here. It's kind of a flat, yet kind of tapered brush. I'm going to go in and use a little bit of bronzer. And this is a Divergent palette. It looks like a limited edition palette that they had a couple, maybe last summer when the movie came out. Was it last summer? I don't know. But they had a couple of palettes, and this is their cheek palette that they had, and their bronzer and highlight palette. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Indulgent Bronze in this. So I'm just going to take this and basically just work this towards the back of my cheek, just right underneath my natural cheekbone here. So I'm going to go in from my hairline right back here and work this down some there. I don't ever want to go anywhere past my eyeline here, because then if you go too far in, it's going to start looking like dirt. We don't want that to happen. So just really blending that. And excuse my funny faces when I do my makeup, I'm sorry. I know it can sometimes get a little distracting. So just do that back portion of the face there. You see how that just kind of gives a little bit more of that that structure. So now I'm going to go ahead and do slightly just a bit on my temple here. That's just going to really make this come out and just really be a little bit more defined. And then just right underneath my neckline here and down towards my neck. Some, just whatever's extra on that brush, nothing too crazy. You don't want to look too burnt or anything. Take off the excess and then go in the other side, matching that direction of that bone and not going anywhere over that eye line. You're making sure that you're blending this all the way back into your hairline. So there's no, again, no line of demarcation right through here, because you don't want it to just end right in this portion here. So you want it to look as natural as possible. So now that you have that, just do a slightly bit right at the temple there, up into the hairline a bit. That trick is also really good for clients who are wearing their hair up, to kind of really bring down that focus to the face instead of in this portion here. Okay. And down the neck, down the jawline, really chiseling that jaw down and then blending that slightly. See, to give a little bit more definition to the face. Okay. So now that we have that, I'm going to go ahead and do a little blush just to kind of add a little bit more life into the face a little bit more. So in this palette, I'm going to go ahead and just use the same palette. I have a corally pink that has a little bit of a shimmer, and then I have more of like a dusty pink. It's more of a matte, not too crazy, not too over the top. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and just mix those two. Mix these two to kind of customize my own color. This is the really great part about getting palettes like this, is that you not only have individual colors to choose from, but you can mix colors together. So if you feel like it's, this is not like, it's a little bit too drab, then you can just mix it with a little bit of that brighter color to kind of mix it up a little bit more. Or if you feel like something's not as shiny, then you can add a little bit of the highlighter to whichever color you want. So it's really customizable. So I'm just going to go ahead and just use the same brush. I just went ahead and kind of cleaned the excess bronzer off of it so it's not too bronzy and doesn't mess with the color as much. So I just went ahead and cleansed my brush a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same brush and just go right at the apple of my cheek and blend that towards that bronzer that we just laid in. So going in and smiling, the fullest part of your cheek, that's your apple. Back into that hairline. So same on this side. Apple of the cheek. And blend it back toward that bronzer. With any makeup look, you might find that you spend a little bit more time blending than you actually do placing product on the face. So you want to just make sure that you're blending all of your lines together. You don't want any hard lines, especially in a contour or a blush. You want your canvas to be nice and perfected. So now that we have that, so you can see we have slight pink into more of that bronzy, a little bit more of that bronziness coming in through here and through the hairline and down into the neck. So now automatically you know that your highlighter would go right into this portion of your cheek here. Okay, so that's what we're going to go ahead and do next. I'm going to go ahead and do my foundation brush again, just going ahead and cleaning the excess foundation off of my brush so that you don't mix your cream with your powder, because then that would make it a hot mess. So I'm just going to go in and into my highlighter, the Gleaming Pearl, and dusting the excess on the back of my hand here. I'm going to go ahead and just pounce this just right above. So you can see it just gives a slight pearlescent as camera, but you can kind of see that pearlescence happening in that area. And blending out so that there's no hard lines, and we're keeping it as natural as possible. Doing the same to the other side and blending through so that's nice and blended. I'm just going to grab a tiny little eyeshadow brush, a blending brush, making sure that it's clean, obviously, and I'm just going to go ahead and dust that right through that cupid's bow, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and just dust a tiny little bit right underneath my brow here, just a little bit, and blending that through. I'm also going to add a tiny little bit of this highlight right above my brow line. Just give a slight lifting effect to that eye area. You can see now which side looks slightly more lifted than the other. So again, doing that with the other side. And just for a little bit more effect and a slightly more brightening, I'm just going to go in and pop just a tiny little bit of that in the inside corner of my eye, just to kind of intensify that highlight and give me a little bit more brightness. And there you have it, perfected complexion. And it doesn't take that much time. I mean, definitely once you kind of get the steps down, it won't take as long. You can definitely do a complexion in like 5 minutes. So once you already know the products that you're gonna use and all that stuff, it won't take very, very long. So I hope you guys enjoyed the complexion video. Up next is gonna be my brow video. So you're gonna basically learn how to do some brows. So I'll see you guys next time. Adios. Bye.